I knew that I always was meant to be an entrepreneur, but when I saw him not putting on a suit in the morning to get out of the house,
Okay.
He was the one taking our son to daycare at 2 years old. Like once I saw him doing these things, I was like, I'm not happy about this. I need to get in on it. The cost is I get to go on my kids' field trips. Like I get to go on a field trip, and I just know that I'm going to set aside those few hours and I'm just going to make up for them at a later time. Really, I kind of like went all in when it was summer break. And I knew that I was actually not going to go back in, right? Nice. So like summer, okay, now I have free time. I'm jumping all in. And I knew that if it didn't work, I kind of gave myself, 6 months. Like if I can't make this work, then I can go back to the stability and that comfort, but I'm going to make it work. I'm gung ho. I'm going to do it at all costs.
Welcome back to the COS Business Podcast, #1 podcast in Colorado Springs.
Today, our highlighted sponsor is an amazing highlighted sponsor, and it is Dream Accounting Solutions. And who's the guest for today?
Alicia Klausmeier, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on the show. And again, thank you so much for sponsoring our show and being a loyal sponsor to what we're doing here in the community of Colorado Springs. We got into a lot of things before the show, and one of the coolest things is that you are actually a native, which is it's kind of rare. Every once in a while, we'll have couple natives have been on, Johnny Joy, or
a couple times a year, maybe.
Yeah, it's not very common.
We have a handful, yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your story before we get into Dream Accounting Solutions and everything. But just tell us your story about your upbringing here in Colorado Springs and what got you into the business first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, I was born and raised here in the Springs. Graduated from Doherty High School. Go Spartans!
Oh man.
Went to college all across the state of Colorado, kind of started in engineering and was at School of Mines in Golden, and then went up to CSU in Fort Collins and came back to the Springs where my heart was at UCCS, and got my master's degree from there. So really just very much love the Springs, love the community. I don't know. I think that I have been so impressed with what the Springs how it's grown over the past 40 years, like when I was born to now. And I love being able to be a part of the community, and started my business really to support the community and support business owners. And we can dig into more of the accounting side of things, but really that's kind of the reason my heart is here. Raised my family here, got married here. This is where I want to be.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, we have to ask, and you don't have to give us a direct answer, but like, what university? You got some pretty big titans in there. You got CSU, School of Mines, UCCS. Was there one that you had a really good experience more than the other? You don't have to give us a clear, definite answer if you don't want to, but I'm curious.
I would say it's hard because when you first go to school, I was at School of Mines for 2 years and realized that engineering was not the place where I wanted to be, and I kind of needed to shift. They didn't have a lot of opportunities there. So great first 2 years of schooling there, but then moving to CSU, it was a college environment, like very different than what you would experience at School of Mines, where you have 4,000 kids. You have a full campus, So that experience itself was the best. So I guess so. Yeah, I would say CSU.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too, because when I lived in Fort Collins, it gives you appreciation for the Springs too in some ways, right? Because in some ways it's very cool because very community driven, very college town, lots of trees everywhere, lots of water everywhere, a lot of community everywhere, which is so cool. Like you said, going to football games, and then it's so much fun. But the Springs and the beauty of the Springs is unheard of. That's what drew Andrew here. He's like, I saw the mountains. He knew somehow he was going to live here one day. That's literally what he said.
I would say that the worst thing about Fort Collins is the fact that it's so far from the mountains. You're right here, you're a 10-minute drive and you can hit the really great trails and hiking. Fort Collins, you had to drive, and you had to go past Horsetooth Reservoir, you really get up into the mountains there. It was a further drive. So I agree. The beauty here in the Springs outweighs the community of Fort Collins.
For sure. Well, tell us more about your graduate degree. So that was UCCS, and then so I'm assuming that was in accounting.
Actually, surprisingly, I was in education. So I wanted to go back, and I wanted to be a teacher, wanted to help. So kind of went into like the STEM fields. And so I taught science, I taught math, I taught engineering, things that I loved doing growing up, and spent a lot of time. I spent 12 years in education.
Wow.
I know I'm older than I look, but during my time in education, I fell in love with accounting on the side, and I started doing a lot of accounting for my husband's business and some friends' businesses, and got my extra certifications and degrees, and realized that my heart was really there. My heart was in accounting, and it was working with business owners and really using the education that I had to be able to teach business owners how to understand their financials, how to, I don't know, take a more down to earth approach to accounting, not so high level, but also, just getting to use that experience was great. So yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And actually that's a really good tie-in, right? With like education and being a teacher. Because like one of the best things I always say, like very smart people always show when the smartest when they can distill very complex things into like rudimentary terms, right? And it sounds like that kind of helped you do that, especially in business terms. You're talking to, I'm assuming you're teaching kids, and now you're teaching grown adults who are, having issues.
Yeah.
Was that transition, was it difficult for you, or was it a lot easier than you might have thought?
So luckily, while I was in education, I did a lot of leadership courses, and I moved into administration. And so I was working with teachers on the daily, was working at the district level, doing administration, working with other adults. And so that transition wasn't very difficult because I was doing a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
Transitioning out of education to the real world was probably a really big eye opener for me. But at the same time, it also helped me decide who I really wanted to help, and the type of niches that we focus in, and the type of people that we like to work with. So yeah.
What are those?
It's a great question.
Who are those?
Cool people.
Nice.
No, there's definitely some industries, but I would say first and foremost, people, business owners that are wanting to learn, and they're wanting to grow their business or grow themselves. So really our goal is to really kind of empower all the business owners out there that want to be empowered. You want to know what's going on in your business, and you want to grow, and you want to understand the financial data and use that data to make informed decisions. Like, you're our ideal client, because our goal is to really educate you, not just do it for you and send you financials once a year for taxes. Really, that kind of ties into the CFO services that we really offer. That's my favorite thing that we get to do, is that we get to coach business owners. And so cool people that are looking to grow, people that are wanting to learn. That would be first and foremost who we're going to work with.
We're going to take a quick break to thank our sponsors. Home Day. Buying a home shouldn't be overwhelming. Home Day empowers you to save on your mortgage by putting you in control of the process. Lower your cost and take the next step towards home ownership with ease. Visit gethomeday.com today.
Fast Signs. From banners to vehicle wraps, Fast Signs delivers custom visual solutions to help your business stand out. Their team ensures your message is clear, bold, and effective. Get your signage needed handled at fastsigns.com. That's fastsigns.com.
Neon Pig Creative. Neon Pig Creative brings your brand to life through exceptional design and creative strategy. Whether you need branding, websites, or marketing materials, they've got you covered. Check them out at neonpigcreative.com. That's neonpigcreative.com.
Epic Eyewear. Stylish, affordable, and designed for adventure, Epic Eyewear has the sunglass and eyewear you need to see life more clearly. From the mountains to the beach, protect your eyes with high-quality frames and lenses. Check out their collection at epiceyewear.com. And by the way, Andrew, we do have a special discount, COSBP15, for 15% off, I believe.
Cars Helping Charities. Turn your unused cars into a meaningful contribution with Cars Helping Charities. They make it easy to donate your vehicle to support local causes. One of the local charities that we like to support on behalf of Cars Helping Charities, actually, and part of their sponsorship, is Mattersville. And check them out too.
They're awesome. They are a tiny house community for veterans suffering with PTSD. They have a property out in Yoder, Colorado, and then they also have one in Sedalia, Colorado as well.
Donate today and make a difference. Visit carshelpingcharities.org. That's carshelpingcharities.org. dream.org.
Dream Accounting Solutions.
Take the stress out of managing your books with Dream Accounting Solutions. They provide reliable expert accounting services tailored to small businesses. Simplify your finances at dreamaccountingsolutions.com. That's dreamaccountingsolutions.com.
Exponential Impact. Exponential Impact is driving innovation and entrepreneurial success in Colorado Springs. Supporting startups with mentorship, funding, and community resources, they help businesses grow and thrive. Learn more about their impact at exponentialimpact.com. That's exponentialimpact.com.
And now let's get back to the show. What about some good examples of businesses and industries you've worked with in the past? Then?
Absolutely. So we do a lot in construction industry. So a lot of people in construction. Also really like other service-based businesses like marketing firms and even some smaller creatives that are, know that numbers maybe aren't their first thing and their favorite thing to deal with, but they know that they want to learn and grow. So other creatives, really those are kind of like the biggest. Some coaches, some, we've worked with lawyers, we've worked with, lots of service-based. Too.
You said your husband is an entrepreneur. Did that kind of slip in there?
Yeah.
So did you get like a entrepreneur bug, like being married to him, and you're like, let me dive into this? Like, explain that dynamic, because I feel like that's super important, right? Because you married an entrepreneur. So talk about that experience too.
Absolutely. So when we got married, neither one of us was entrepreneurs, right? We got married at mid-20s. We were working corporate level jobs, or I was a teacher at that point, district level kind of things, like very stable benefits, all of those. And then we started having kids, and my husband was miserable what he was doing, and he was like, I need out. So luckily he found an industry that he really loved, and he's in real estate. He is a real estate appraiser. And so kind of not an agent route, but the appraisal route. He gets to kind of make his own hours. He gets to work when he wants. He can take jobs when he wants, and just gets to manage that business. And I will say that I knew that I always was meant to be an entrepreneur, but when I saw him not putting on a suit in the morning to get out of the house. He was the one taking our son to daycare at 2 years old. Like, once I saw him doing these things, I was like, I'm not happy about this. I need to get in on it. I need to be able to create my life for me. I don't want anyone else to kind of dictate what that looks like. And so it definitely put an extra bug in my pants to kind of get moving on. Yeah.
Well, there's a beauty to just like being an entrepreneur and having your own hours, right? But there is a cost and a price you pay to have that flexibility in your life. And like, I think a lot of people do get drawn and they're like, man, I want like the freedom to own my own time. So true. And it's like definitely one of the most rewarding things. But like we said, sometimes it comes at a cost or at a price, right? Like working weekends. Did you experience any of that? Or were you kind of, working, being a teacher, and then doing this on the side, so you didn't have to worry about necessarily diving all in and then like being stuck in this, like, I got to make money now to, help support my family? How was that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really, I kind of like went all in when it was summer break, and I knew that I was actually not going to go back in. Right. Nice. So like summer, okay, now I have free time. I'm jumping all in. And I knew that if it didn't work, I kind of gave myself 6 months, like, if I can't make this work, then I can go back to the stability and that comfort. But I'm going to make it work, was really just kind of I'm gung ho, I'm going to do it, and at all costs. Right. But I would say for sure, there's still moments as a business owner, and I have a great team, and I really try to set hours and be consistent about that. But there's many nights where I'm up working late, and there's many weekends where I'm still having to work. But the cost is I get to go on my kids' field trips. Like, I get to go on a field trip, and I just know that I'm going to set aside those few hours, and I'm just going to make up for them at a later time. So that, and then also I started my business before COVID, but then when COVID hit and my kids were literally 5 and 3 and they were stuck at home, and I had no place for them to go, and I was still trying to work and run a business. You're many nights up till 2, 3 in the morning, and then I'm teacher the next day, trying to teach my kindergartner to get through, and then we're working. So lots of sacrifices along the way, but 100% worth it for me, but I also know that it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, family is really
yeah.
important to you. We
Mhm.
found some Easter eggs in your business, right?
Yeah.
First and foremost, the name Dream.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to us about the significance of first, the first word in your business, Dream Accounting
Yeah.
Solutions, but the word specifically Dream.
Yes. So Dream is the initials of my family. So D is for my husband, Dan. R is for my son, Riker. E is for my daughter, Everett or Evie. And then my name, Alicia, A, and then M is for Magic, my horse. So
Okay.
Dream really kind of spells out the four of us and kind of who I love. But then at the same time there's a dual meaning to it because really I started the business so that I could live my dreams. And I support business owners that are trying to live theirs. And so really the focus is we're trying to help you live that dream, whatever it is. Most of the time it's not accounting related. So you're trying to grow a marketing firm. Well, your dream is not to do the accounting. So your dream is to grow the marketing side. So we get to take that off your plate and help you kind of like make sure that you don't have any nightmares. So yeah, so dual purpose, the name Dream. Yeah.
Gosh, well, I've learned everything completely backwards. I've been doing, and me and Andrew both, like well over 10 years of being an entrepreneur. And I feel like every hard lesson, especially with the numbers and accounting, has come the hard way for me, especially speaking for myself. And so like I have learned to be so much better at my bookkeeping just by nature of making all these ignorant mistakes. But talk a little bit more about that, like when you take on clients and what common mistakes that you see. For me, it was cash flow issues and figuring out like really, how a business should work and how much it should cash flow and how much I should be putting away and percentages and all these different things. But what's some of the commonalities that you see in some of your clients?
Yeah, great question. So I would say, like you said, cash flow is the number one driver for businesses' success or failures, right? And so the inability to understand what your cash is looking like is huge. So with that, when you're doing your own accounting, you're oftentimes not setting aside enough money for taxes in the future. You're not setting aside enough money to pay yourself. People use their business as like a piggy bank where they're just putting money in and out of it and it's personal and you just don't know if it's personal or business. There's no real budgets that get set oftentimes when you're doing things like that. And so spending happens more than you maybe should be. And so those are kind of some of the things that we really talk about, and understanding you have to know what your numbers are. If you don't know what your numbers are, then how can you make a budget and stick to it? If you don't know what your numbers are and you're just spending and you think, oh, whatever the bank account balance is going to be what I have, and I'm going to spend all of it. And then you realize, oh, well, I forgot to set aside money for payroll taxes, or I forgot that I have sales tax due, or I forgot that I owe these vendors, I have open bills, whatever the case may be, then you're running the business wrong. And so besides all the minor little things that people do wrong, or they accidentally duplicate income, or they accidentally put personal expenses on the business, I would say the bigger things are those cash flow, lack of budgeting, and really understanding kind of where the money is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's huge. I mean, that's the biggest hurdle, right?
Yeah.
And then once you get like a system in place, they hire someone like you. You were talking a little bit about on your website about like making informed decisions once you get to a certain level, because you can look at the data and be like, okay, now we can make informed decisions for Q1 of 2025. Talk a little bit more about that, because that's me as a marketer. That's what we do too. We pull in data and then we look at it, and the data helps us make the informed decision. I'm not doing a gut decision. I'm making an informed decision based off the trends or the data. So talk to us more about that in regards to accounting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think every business owner has different data that they should be looking at, and it could change from month to month or quarter to quarter. But things like revenue goals and making sure that you have some goals like, okay, what's the minimum we need to bring in to make sure that we're at least breaking even, right? Like knowing what that number is so that you have a goal, a sales goal every month, or a retainage goal, or whatever that needs to be. You have to know what that number is. You need to know what your operation expenses are. What are your recurring expenses every month that you are having to pay? If you brought in zero income, what do you still have to pay? Like, what do you still owe people? Softwares, things like that, rent, all of those things. And then really just kind of within that, like, what are some different margins? So we look at margins and say, all right, well, what is your labor wages? Or if you have employees, how much of your revenue should you actually be spending on wages? If you're spending 80% on wages, you're not going to be making any money. Really, like, every industry has different goals, but kind of like within in general, I would say, you're like, okay, my profit margins, or expenses for labor, including taxes for employees, should be between 40 and 55% of the revenue you bring in. If you don't know those things, then it's going to be really hard for you to make any money. If you have goals of being like, I want to have 20% profit every month, you need to know what that looks like. What is 20% profit? Okay, you bring in $100,000, 20% profit. $20,000 is going to be your extra. So I guess just setting goals and looking at those things. And then quarter to quarter, month to month, you should be like forecasting, okay, this is what I think is going to be happening in the future. All right, if that happens, where am I going to be? I think my numbers are going to be a little lower. What's going to happen? How am I going to handle that cash flow? So lots of different numbers that you can be looking at. And as a marketer, you know, like different KPIs and data points. But I would say that every business owner should be looking at least at some of them. So, yeah.
It's so interesting to me because, like, if you think about entrepreneurs, a lot of them are like visionaries and they're very pie in the sky and they're like, casting a vision out and they want to kind of stay in that lane. And like at least the ones I've come across, like very often they are not very number specific and it'll bite them in the butt either in the beginning or sometime down the road. Right. Do you find that very similar too? Is like, because I love like your like CFO services that you have, because I feel like it fits so perfect into a lot of these people that we know who are, they're visionaries or they want to run the marketing and the sales side and they don't want to run so do you find that is like a perfect fit, that most of the people you come across are not necessarily numbers people? Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I would say that's kind of where like our favorite place to be is. Not only do we offer outsourced accounting where we can like take all of the bookkeeping and the payroll and the sales tax and the accounts payables and all of those things off of someone's plate. But we really like, once that is correct and accurate and we have a solid foundation, then we really like being able to just like kind of teach you and be like, okay, if you're only going to hear 3 things this month from us, like these are the 3 things that you need to know. And then let's look at creating some action steps together. So if you're from like the CFO side, if you're looking at improving your profit margins, right? Like, okay, what are 3 things that you can do to improve your profit margins? Does that mean cutting labor wages? Or does that mean increasing revenue? Or maybe it's a combination of both. Or maybe it's, like, let's go through and look at all of your expenses and cut 10% of your expenses for the next 3 months and see what happens. So kind of just, I think our goal is to kind of help break it down. And like I said, kind of make accounting a little bit more understandable for all, not using crazy accounting language that you don't understand, and just sending you financial reports and hoping that you can read them on your own without any support. We're kind of there along the way and then try to chunk it for you so it's easier. But most business owners don't know. So don't feel bad if you don't understand your financials. I would say majority don't.
That's interesting.
We'd like to take a quick break and thank our sponsors.
Lowry Veterans Law. That's perfect.
Lowry Veterans Law is a nationwide veterans disability firm based in Colorado. Their VA-accredited attorneys specialize in TDIU unemployability, PTSD, and secondary service connection claims.
They work on contingency, no upfront fees, so they only get paid when you do.
If the VA hasn't given you the rating you deserve, get a free case evaluation at LowryVeteransLaw.com or call 719-895-6979.
Planet Duct. Planet Duct is the #1 choice for professional air duct cleaning in Colorado Springs in southern Colorado. With state-of-the-art equipment and top-tier service, they make sure the air in your home or business is clean and allergen-free. Breathe easier with Planet Duct. Learn more at planetduct.com.
Franchise Succeed. Looking to invest in a franchise or grow your current one? The experts at Franchise Succeed help you navigate the world of franchising with proven strategies and guidance. Whether you're a first-time owner or scaling a franchise empire, they're here to help. Visit franchisesucceed.com to get started. That's franchisesucceed.com.
Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care. Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care offers affordable, accessible healthcare with a focus on you. They provide exceptional primary care without the hassle of insurance barriers. Experience a patient-centered approach. Learn more at pinnacleapc.com. Celebrity DJ.
Make your next event unforgettable with Celebrity DJ. From weddings to corporate events, they deliver energy and entertainment that keeps the party going. Visit celebrity-dj.com to book your DJ today.
Storybook Destinations. Turn your dream vacation into a reality with Storybook Destinations. They specialize in creating custom travel experiences from Disney vacations to bucket list adventures. Start planning today at StorybookDestinations.com. That's StorybookDestinations.com. Awesome Home Services.
Awesome Home Services delivers top-notch HVAC solutions for your home. Whether you need heating, cooling, or system maintenance, they ensure your comfort year-round. Visit awesomeservice.com for your HVAC needs. That's awesomeservice.com. And now let's get back to the show.
Yeah.
Well, you have a very interesting way of which you got into entrepreneurship. You and your husband, it seems like most of the entrepreneurs that we know that come through the show, not all, but most, started when they were single, not married yet, no kids yet.
Yeah.
And, maybe they plan differently because they're, struggling financially to get their business up and going. And maybe they prolonged having kids, but you already had kids and you guys jumped into that. So talk to us about that experience, because I think that scares a lot of entrepreneurs. They're like, oh my gosh, like the struggles I'm going through, I couldn't even imagine like supporting another human being, and you have several kiddos. So like, talk about that experience as well.
I guess for me, it was like, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? And so I just needed to kind of like take that jump. And I knew that probably who I was going to be as an entrepreneur was going to be, I was going to be a better mom, and I was going to be a better wife, and just more myself. And so I was willing to take that risk. I will not say it was easy, 100%. We had to ask for support. We had to, like, my neighbor, can you watch my kid a couple days a week so that they're not crawling around the floor while I'm trying to work and do Zoom meetings? Or clients, can you reschedule meetings because I've got a kid that won't take a nap? Or different things like that. So definitely asking for a lot of support and help in that. And then just relying on my husband, and really we kind of flip-flop schedules a lot of times, and really, hey, today's your day to take the kids to school and pick them up from school so I can work through, that extra time. And it was not easy. I'll say that.
What did you do to plan leading up to actually jumping off into the deep end?
Yeah. So definitely I had kind of started on the side, doing some work while I was still had my job, but probably 3 or 4 months where I was doing both. It was a side gig and I had my full-time job. So during that time I was prepping, all the background stuff of like websites and getting marketing set up, and making the business active, and having my EIN number, and getting my bank accounts. And then had a couple clients, that I was working with. And I guess I'm just an all or nothing kind of person. Cause then after 3 months, I was like, I'm doing it. I'm just going to jump in. I had goals that I had set and said, all right, this is what I need to be making by the end of these 6 months. If I am making this, then I'm not going back to work, and I'm going to make it work. If I'm struggling or we're not getting there, and we had really budgeted as a family to see like, okay, what can we afford? We have a mortgage, and we have groceries, and we have some daycare. Like, those are the bare necessities, right? What are the other things that we don't necessarily need? And just kind of making sure that we were staying within that lane and not having to. Luckily, we didn't have to go into debt for it. We didn't have to get out loans. But at the same time, I support clients that need to. If you need to get a loan or a line of credit to be able to make your dream happen, then just make it a smart one. But
But probably walk them through the steps of like, where can we downsize first before we have to find a loan or something?
Yes. So I don't do it anymore just because we're so busy with businesses. But there are people out there that do personal financial budgeting, right? Like help business or help people like understand where they're spending their money on a personal level, and say, look at how much money you're spending on groceries every month. Look how much you're spending on gas. Can you budget for that? And so I used to do that, but I did that definitely for us as a family to jump into that world of entrepreneurship. So
your business and your life bleed into each other easily. So it's like having like a good structure and organization in your personal life could help your business in a lot of ways too. So
Yeah.
or maybe it's the certain things that like you can spend from the money that you're making from your business, and then like so you just cut off right there. It's like this is how much you can spend. You figure out what you need to do with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Totally. Yep.
Well,
So
one of the hardest things, and you kind of both have been kind of getting into it personal, bleeding into business, is like life happens when you're running business.
mhm.
Health issues
Yeah.
happen when you run into issues. We're talking before
Mhm.
this that I've been going through some level of like vertigo recently. I'm on a computer all day, so that's like the worst thing. 'Cause I
Mhm.
can't even focus on the computer,
Yep.
and how much that's been impeding my level of what I want to do as far as output for business. But you've also shared that you've had some health scares as well along the way,
Mhm.
and guess you've been in business for 6 years. But do
Mhm.
you, if you care to disclose any
Yeah.
of those
Yeah.
issues and stuff like that, I think it'd be cool
Definitely.
for our audience to hear.
Yeah. So what has it been? Like 2.5 years ago, I experienced a mini stroke. That was very scary. Literally laying in bed with my son reading a book, and I lost feeling on the whole left side of my body, dropped the book, couldn't talk, like nothing was working. My brain wasn't
Wow.
functioning. Luckily it didn't last for long. It cleared, and which is why it's called a mini stroke. There wasn't long-term damage, but with it, and I say permanent damage, with it, there was a lot of health issues that came along. So I had migraines before, but migraines got so severe I couldn't work. I couldn't function for more than an hour, maybe two, just like you on vertigo. Like you're on a computer, I'm trying to look at a bank rec, or I'm trying to look at numbers. Like I can't, my eyes won't focus. I can't look at things. Everything's blurry, and my brain is like in a fog. So literally a year and a half of like therapy, physical therapy, eye therapy. I worked with a neuro optometrist to help with a lot of the issues that I was having. They say that it's like a type of brain trauma and more information is coming out about how the brain works, and with concussions and things like that. So it's very much like similar to a concussion and the stuff that you have to deal with. So a year and a half or so of really just not being able to focus on the business, kind of doing the bare minimum. Luckily, I had a team already built up at that point, and they were able to take on a lot of the work. But that starts affecting your personal life. It starts affecting relationships, everything when you have health issues. And so I think my biggest thing was just the fact that I did have such a great support system with employees and with my spouse and my parents and my in-laws and family that were able to support and help us kind of get through that hard time. Do I still have some issues? Absolutely. Am I still going to always fight through it? Yes, absolutely. I think that was the biggest thing, is like I could give up and I could just let my business stop, and I could go back and I can work a corporate job again, or I can leave. But I knew that that's where I wanted to be, and that I was going to power through. And so that's where I'm at.
Wow. How long ago did that happen?
That was in 2021. So January of 2021.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's been almost 3 years now, I guess. 3 years of dealing with it. And of course, there's once doctors start digging, they start finding other issues, and then they start scaring you. So that's they found a hole in my heart, and I almost had to have heart surgery, and there's all of these things that they're like, well, this could be related, but we're not sure, and so this could be an issue, and we're gonna have to and then depression. So the depression and the mental state that happens when you are dealing with health things, not only are you in pain and you're hurting and you're not yourself, but then you're dealing with the financial aspects of like, okay, I'm not making as much money because my business isn't growing, or I'm having to pay and rely on other people, or I have all these medical bills piling up, right? All of these things, like, it can really throw you, but yeah.
That's so strange. And it didn't happen like anything specific, right? You were just reading a book and then,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
So,
and then I'm assuming an ambulance had to come or something, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. So your kiddos were
husband,
a
yeah.
little afraid from
Yeah.
that moment,
Yeah.
of course.
Luckily, my daughter was asleep. She was 4 at the time. no, was she 4? She was 5 at the time. And my son was 7. And so he was a little more aware of what was going on. She was asleep. But my husband really tried to kind of like make it so it wasn't scary for them as much as possible. And yeah, just the things that happened after with the constant doctor's appointments and time away from the family. That was hard. Well,
it's cool, so cool to see you on the other side of that, because I think a lot of people are going through whatever it might be. It could be health issues, or it can be just mental health issues. And you're right, it bleeds into your business and privately, right, into your personal life. And just looking from the other side, you're kind of on the other side that, yeah, you're dealing with some issues still, but you're tackling things so optimistically. I'm assuming it wasn't always like that, right?
Yeah.
And there's some level of wisdom when you get past those things. What attributes to that for you? Or is it because you've been able to overcome a lot of those major challenges that were an issue before? Or is it just your outlook on life? Like, where does that come from?
That's a good question. I think that part of it's just who I am and kind of the family I was raised in, right? Like, you're always looking at the glass half full. It's not empty, right? We're looking for the good things in life. And, I think more and more we talk about mental health, and we talk about manifestations, and we talk about motivations, and just being grateful, and journaling and meditating, and different things that I think are so helpful for you to be self-reflective and grow as a person. So I think I've always kind of been on that optimistic side, but I also am consciously trying to make sure that I take care of myself, and that I am being positive, and I'm saying positive things to myself, and I'm meditating every day, and I'm trying to, journal and write down good things. Yeah, I'm a mom, so yeah, I have to be optimistic.
Yeah.
I have to set a good example. We have at our house, and we've had the same ones every day. They're affirmations that the kids that we have written down on note cards, and we have affirmations that, we read, and they're on the fridge. And I am successful. I can do hard things. I am love. I am everything. Like, things that just saying them out loud, I think it just triggers something in your brain to be like, that's who I am. If you're saying things that are negative, like, I can't do that. If you say that out loud, then guess what? You're not going to be able to do it. But if you're like, I can do that, I can succeed, then it triggers something positive. So
it's so funny how that's so true. Like, and people think it's kind of like whatever, hippity dippity to say like these self-affirmation, but it's so dang true for whatever reason. It's so good to remind yourself of who you are, or even the things that you've accomplished that are like whatever milestones along the way. Like, important to kind of recognize milestones.
Yep.
And be like, that's a good indicator of what I'm saying in these self-affirmations. I am a leader, whatever it might be as an instance as a milestone, but you have that kind of proof in these milestones as well. And then these self-affirmations, and your kids say it too, which is so cool for them.
Yeah.
Are they already like kind of trying to be part of the business too? Because we've had a lot of folks on here who are parents, and they said like some of their kids kind of get the nuances of the business or the vernacular of the business, start saying things like mom or dad would say. Are they kind of doing that as well already?
Yeah, that's funny. So my kids are now 10 and 8. And I would say my 10-year-old, he like doesn't want anything to do with the business. If I ask him to do things, he will. So like, he'll put stamps on envelopes if we, when we're mailing Christmas cards, and he'll do like some of those things, but he doesn't care. My daughter, on the other hand, she's like, well, after I'm a fashion designer and after I make it on Broadway, then I'll take over your business. Like, she's the one that she's like, yeah, this is going to be a family thing, and I'm going to take it over. And so it's kind of funny because she definitely sees that side of things. My son, he knows what we're talking about, but he doesn't want anything to do with it.
It's so funny how they have different personalities.
Yeah, they do. Kids.
Because my idea of me having kids, I'm like, oh, they're probably going to be this way or this person. But you just never know at the end of the day, because they just come out essentially with this different personalities and different nuances. It's just so cool to see.
I think the biggest thing is like, you raise them, you try to raise them the same, but they're so different, right? That it's awesome. Born with those differences. So I love it.
Cool.
I
was going to say one big thing that's different about your business too, that folks at home might not know, is your remote. and you've been running remote. And was this a remote business before COVID too?
It was, yeah.
Perfect. Good play.
I know, yeah. So it worked out great because leading into COVID, we didn't have to deal with it. Yeah. So when I started the business, I knew that I wanted to be remote. I knew that we have technology at our fingertips, and luckily I am very comfortable with technology. And so I said, why don't we utilize it? Like, it's not the same old accounting firm where you have an office that people have to come and drop off paper receipts, and you do tax returns and they have to come back to meet, right? So started the business remote, virtual, led into COVID, didn't have to really change anything because we had processes in place. So it was perfect. And then the coolest thing is that being remote, it allows me to have employees from all over the country. So I get to hire people that I like, that are right, and that make a good fit for the business and have the same vision as us. And so I've got employees from all over, which is fabulous.
That's awesome.
I'm going to fix this real quick.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
One-handing it too. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's really cool because so I have a couple different companies, but one of them is completely, well, all of them actually now are completely remote. And I understand what you're talking about, but a lot of people that thinks this is so strange not to work with everybody in the same environment. I've been in a place where that's worked really well, and culture's been great. And it was like a bunch of 20, 30 something year olds, and it was fun and it was great. And it was like a Google type of that Google environment that everybody wishes for. Right. And then, we have these more remote businesses that work out, and it's just a different type of culture, and you can make it work. You truly can. It takes extra effort, different things, you don't have a ping pong table everybody can, hang out at, but there's different ways to do that.
Yep.
Talk about like company culture and how you've been able to fuse that into a remote business for some of our viewers at home who might be interested in doing something similar.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that it starts when you're hiring, right? Like, you have to make sure that you find the right fit, the right people that are made for that environment. So the hiring process is super important. I always start with kind of tasks that are tech related so that I can understand if you are comfortable in that environment. Literally make a video of yourself. Are you comfortable being on camera? Are you comfortable, talking, setting up a microphone and having a webcam on? Because that's how we interact, is through Google Meet meetings or Hangouts and Zoom meetings and different things like that. So are you comfortable doing that? That's one of the first tasks. And I can tell a lot on people, like, if you're not comfortable with that, then maybe that's not the type of environment that's going to be ideal for you. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Like, that's just not right. So really kind of starting there from the beginning, but then a lot of the culture things that we do, I mean, we meet every week, and we start every team meeting with questions that are just have nothing to do with the business, but just get to know you questions. Everyone has cameras on. Everyone is at the meetings. Everyone gets a turn. And there are things that are silly, like, what kind of superpower would you have if you were a superhero, to like, what was your favorite thing about this past weekend? So like personal. So doing a lot of those types of things. We always do celebrations. So what are celebrations that are happening in your life or in your work environment? Talking about those things and really just kind of opening up. And I never try to rush through those, because I think that when you're in person, right, you're walking down the hallway and you have those 5-minute conversations or 10 minutes at a cubicle or an office door that you don't necessarily get. So we have to kind of create environments for you to still get that moments of connection. And then we utilize like different channels I know a lot of people use Slack. We don't use Slack, but we just use our Google, because we're all Google based,
Google Chat.
Thank you.
I use Google Chat too.
Yeah. And I set up channels so we have full team channels. We have individual team channels. We have like with certain people or certain team members have channels, and they can drop things that they want to say to each other in there. They can drop a meet link. If they're like, hey, can someone hop into this? I have a question. We set up virtual office hours every week. So these are times where I'm always in a Zoom or always in a room, and you can just pop in if you have something you want. Yeah. That's and cool. Then I have my operations manager. She does the same. She has those set up. So really trying to create a lot of environments where or opportunities where it's easy to hop in and feel connected. And then additionally, one of the things that we did this year, which was really cool, was that we did a work retreat. So I flew everyone out to Colorado and we drove up to Breckenridge and we spent 4 days up in Breckenridge and got hotel rooms and did a little bit of work planning and goal setting and different things like that, but also just a lot of time to just hang out. 3 of the people on the team I had never even met in person before. So getting to give them a hug was very cool. And we just had a blast. So I think creating opportunities for you to connect and be people, I think is super important. So those are the things that I've done.
That's brilliant. Like I was just going to say the virtual office thing and you just put that in there. And then we used to do quarterly things where we got quarterly things to get everybody together. And everybody in my teams were mostly in Denver. Some of them are international now, but back then it was just mostly Colorado. So we just meet in Denver or meet in Blackhawk for the weekend. Yeah. We did a Blackhawk casino kind of fun thing with the wives and everybody too. Cool. And that was super fun. Yeah. There's just something about this in-person connection. You can get around it too, right? Like you were doing before. You can do these quarterly or yearly events and there's something about breaking bread with those that you have worked so hard with, and it doesn't always have to be business, right? Yep. It's so cool. It
is cool. So I was going to say with the quarterly things, one of the things that we did last year for Christmas, our holiday celebration, was we did a virtual murder mystery, That's cool. Which was super fun because everyone got to be a character, and there is really great resources out there that you can find for these opportunities. So everyone is hopped in, we scheduled it, we got to do it together and we had so much fun. And so just, I think finding those resources and utilizing them makes a huge difference.
I have a question for you too, that is an emerging thing in my industry, Andrew's industry. We use it all the time. He's top tier and knowledge base on it because he's always in the know, but automation and AI. Yeah. How has that changed landscape of your business, or has it not yet?
So I would say it definitely has changed, and I think that it's still evolving, as is all the AI, resources that are out there. Some of it really utilizing ChatGPT and helping us to create content and
great content,
support.
By the way.
Yeah,
you like to share your stuff. Yeah,
yeah, thanks. So that is huge. Automation. I mean, so much we use Zapier for a lot of the back end processes and operations and really kind of setting a lot of those things up. The best thing about it is that it really allows us to focus on the customer, on our clients, right? You're not wasting time doing all of those other things that are not as high level, right? So it allows us to spend more time meeting with clients. It allows us to spend more time planning and budgeting and doing the higher level financial kind of work that really helps more, right? Helps clients. So I am all for it. I obviously started my business as virtual, love technology, utilize it as much as we can. There's a lot of people in the industry though that are scared of it and that are not willing to implement.
There's a lot of industries too.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of industries. So I think those that do are going to be the ones that are successful though, moving forward.
It's come to a point for me in my business where I can't even imagine not using it at this point because it just helps me get done so much stuff done in a day.
Yes.
Previously, maybe a week and a half's worth of stuff done in one day.
It's amazing.
And right now I'm going through my vertigo and so I'm man, I really love this because it's really helping me do so many multiple tasks at once and read things and distill it down and spit out summaries and maybe possible responses for de-escalation or whatever it is. It's just such an aid. I think a lot of people thought of it as an assistant. And now I hear a lot of people saying hey, this is almost like a C-level thing, helping advising the company based off of numbers and stuff like that, which is very interesting, especially for an accountant like yourself to help assist you in making very, very informed decisions when there's a lot of data and moving parts. True. It's just so cool to see. And I think, like you said, I think if you're on top of it and you're fluent in it, it's just going to make you so much better in your business. It's really cool to see.
It is cool. I agree.
I have another question about QuickBooks. I saw we're doing some research on you before you got here.
Mhm.
And there's some level of certifications you have with QuickBooks. For those at home who don't know, obviously QuickBooks
Yeah.
is one of the main cornerstone accounting softwares that a lot of business owners, big and
Mhm.
small, use
Yep.
to run their books and keep things kind of very easy and user friendly for folks. But talk to us a little bit more about that and your certifications.
Yeah, absolutely. So QuickBooks is a tool, right? That we utilize, and it is the big daddy of them all, most commonly used. And there was a time when I started my business where I have multiple certifications and know multiple softwares, and decided to make the decision just to really support those that are only in QuickBooks Online. And now they're talking about just non-continuing QuickBooks Desktop. They're talking about the fees going up for that and different things. And so I think that QuickBooks Online is just another tech piece that we can use. But if you know how to use it correctly, then the information and the data that you can get from it is amazing. I think that it's the most user-friendly for business owners. And everyone on my team has to be a QuickBooks certified pro advisor, is what that's called, one of those certifications. And so that is one of the requirements that I have, is that you have to know this software, because I think that if you don't know the software, then you can make mistakes, or you're not as efficient and things like that. So
100%. And what I find, at least in our space, just sitting on our side as like business owners, is like you find that business owners will know enough to do things in QuickBooks, but maybe
Mhm.
not even doing them right. So
Mhm.
it's good to have, like, we have a CPA for one of my companies who goes in there and makes sure like I'm not screwing things up. And that just makes everything feel so much better
Yeah.
for me, because there are so many complications when you're using something like that.
Yep.
When it's not your main skill set, right?
Absolutely.
So is that like a lot of your client base, like they might have an understanding or they have a QuickBooks account. That's
Mhm.
really it. They don't really
Yeah.
know how to.
Yeah, there's a handful, and there's a handful that are the DIYers that want to do it themselves, and they need us to kind of review and check in and make sure that things are correct. And then there's those that are like, I don't want to mess anything up at all. I'm not going to touch it. And you do it. And so really the spectrum is all over the place. And I think that whatever you're comfortable with as a business owner, what is your level of comfort? There will be times where if you're a DIYer and you keep messing things up over and over and over, I'll make a
Mhm.
comment like, we can do this for you, right? You don't have to spend so much time, because you're spending your time, and then you're also paying us to fix your mistakes.
Right.
And they're the same mistakes,
Oh,
right? It might
God.
not necessarily be worth it, but at the same time, I think that a lot of people feel really comfortable and empowered if they know enough to know what's going on. So, so we provide QuickBooks training. So if you're like, hey, I want to be a DIYer, or I want you to do it, but I still want you every month to like teach me some of the things that so at least I have an understanding. We are more than happy to do that. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. What are some common things that you see from business owners just in general that are kind of just like recurring headaches for you as you kind of go into a business that most business owners just don't know because they're ignorant to the fact of whatever it might be financially, that you're seeing that someone viewing this as a business owner will see and be like, oh my gosh, like, yes, I need someone to look over my books because I'm not even
Mhm.
thinking about this certain issue.
Mm-hmm. So if you're not doing bank reconciliations, that's a big indicator of something that is, could potentially be wrong. Bank reconciliations are things to making sure that everything that's hitting the bank account is also hitting your books. And oftentimes, if you're not using QuickBooks correctly, you are duplicating. You see, oh, well, I invoiced someone, so I'm counting that income, but then I also have a bank deposit and so I'm counting that income. So I'm counting double income because I didn't match things correctly, or I'm saying I received this money, but maybe it didn't actually clear the bank, or like a check, bounced and we didn't account for it. And so you're missing money. I mean, there are so many different issues that we see. people putting things on a balance sheet like as an asset or a liability that maybe should be an expense instead, or things that they're expensing out, but really it was a loan payment, not an expense. So like we need to make sure that we are, understanding what those different accounts are and what they're used for and setting things up correctly. And then further, I think that another thing that I see if you're a DIYer is you create 150 different categories in your chart of accounts. So you're like, well, this is Google software. This is I don't know, QuickBooks software. This is, and they name every single thing and it has a different line item on a financial statement. And then you have no idea how to analyze it because you are like, well, how much am I spending in software altogether? Oh, well, I have to add up 20 different lines.
Oh, yeah.
Now I don't understand, versus really kind of creating a great chart of accounts that chunks things together in a
Categorizes them
better
effectively.
way and allows us to look at margins and separates, just how to read a financial better. So I think that if you don't know, then you might set things up wrong. So
That's so important, especially like lifting. I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there are just afraid to lift the hood of what some of them are like 5, 6, 10, 20 years in, and they're like, oh my gosh, if I've been doing this for this long, it makes them a little bit afraid.
True.
So like, what should they do next if they're like, oh my gosh, I have made some of those mistakes, but I've been so many years into my business, freaks me out because does that mean I have to do all these amendments? Like they're just overwhelmed with the level of maybe just minor mistakes they've made over the years. What would be some good piece of advice for you to give them that was something to set them at least on the best next steps forward with their business?
I would say you don't necessarily need to change the past. I would make a decision, like have someone offer a free consultation, take a free quick look at what you've got, make some suggestions about what to do differently, and then really year by year you can make changes in the business. So going into the new year here is a great time to be looking at, all right, I'm going to modify maybe my chart of accounts starting January 1 of this next year because I really have no idea what my financials are telling me. And these are the categories I need to understand better. Okay, let me change it effective this day. So getting someone's help to take a look at it, provide suggestions, potentially even do it for you, it's not the end of the world. Moving forward, I would say it's a lot harder to change the past than it is to change what's going to happen in the future. So really kind of just making that decision and being willing to make a change is probably the hardest thing for the business owner to decide. But once you make that decision that, okay, this is what I need and I'm willing to do it, then it shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. I think that's really going to help a lot of business owners out there. They're like, okay, I'm already so far along in this path. I don't know whether I should just, now get professional help or I'm just screwed because I've been going down this path for so long with this. And I almost feel like there's no hope for them, I guess, is what I'm saying to you.
Yeah. And I would say that every business owner is going to be in different shoes, right? And so just contacting someone and asking them to take a look and provide some suggestions, it's not going to hurt anything, right? So you can get 3, just like we say, go get three opinions from doctors, right? Before we do anything major, do the same thing. Talk to multiple accountants, talk to different bookkeepers, get some feedback and say, what do you see? What do you see? What do you see? What do you suggest? And then you can make the most informed decision for yourself. And then just be willing to make the change.
It's awesome. Well, Alicia, you're so personable, as far as other accounting folks that I've come across.
Yeah.
You make everything kind of rest easy for folks. It's probably your teacher background where you're able to have the eye contact and just make people just chill out and relax, which is nice because you don't seem like a numbers person where you're speaking another language to a business owner across the table and they're just okay, just do this because I don't understand anything you're saying.
Thanks.
It's so nice. It's like a breath of fresh air. It really, really is nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any last questions? Because I have one more last question before we wrap this thing up. 6 years ago, you just celebrated 6 years in your business, right?
Yep.
What piece of advice would you give yourself day one, maybe super overwhelmed, just kind of, burn the boats and now you're going all in on your business? What piece of advice would you give yourself for yourself 6 years ago?
Oh, great question. So, and I would say that I talk with business owners about this all the time. It is do the things that you love to do and get rid of the things that you don't want to do. So if get rid of it means don't do it, or give it to someone else, hire someone to do it. I think there was a saying that you have to live in your flame, right? Like live in the place that makes you happy and warm. And anything that's outside of your flame, you don't get rid of. So I think for me, one of the things that does not make me happy is marketing. I'm a numbers person. I don't like marketing. I hate social media. It was one of the things that I was able to get rid of as soon as I possibly could, because I knew that there was someone out there that really loved doing that, and someone out there that really was much better at it than I was. And so why not let them do it?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Shout out to that person
Yeah,
for helping.
I
I thought
know.
it was you this whole time. So good. They're really good at putting your brand into like, seems like your vision
Yeah.
with everything as well. This has been so awesome. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your nuggets for sure. It's been a different episode for the accounting aspect, which is super great for our viewers to see at home. This is your camera right here. Where can we find you?
You can find us at Dream Accounting Solutions. Check us out on Facebook or Instagram, or on the website at dreamaccountingsolutions.com.
Love it. And again, thank you so much for coming on and sponsoring our show and just helping us grow this show as big as we can too. Because I mean, we're just 1 year behind you as far as how long this show has been around for. So we much appreciate it. Maybe we'll have you do some of our accounting for this
I would
coming year.
love that, and love to just support the community. And I love Colorado Springs, so the fact that I can help businesses in the Springs with your sponsorship makes the world.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for your time. This has been the COS Business Podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one.